Well, everyone, in this video, I want to talk about two concepts and what they represent. These concepts are used also in the media, so I want to inform you that you know what they are talking about. And again, I'm going to use Asia as an example. I've used Europe as an example way too often, so now I'm going to use another region. Okay. The concepts I'm talking about are center and periphery. Periphery comes from Latin peripheria, which has the same pronouncement in ancient Greek, and it simply means the edge of a circle, the border, the outside of a circle. It basically comes down to this. And I'm going to use Korea as an example. And I'm not going to use the borders that you see here, okay? Because first of all, this border over here, it's, how do I say it? It's fake. There's a real border, but it's not, as you think, two countries. But I'll talk about that in another video. So you had Joseon, which was the Korean dynasty that governed this whole kingdom over here, and that was before this whole mess that you see over here. But okay, so you had Hanseong, that was the name of Seoul at the time, that was the center of the kingdom. Hanseong was basically there. You had palaces, you had bathhouses, you had malls. There you had food supplies, you had wealthy farmers. That was basically the heavenly part of the kingdom, which was the most pleasant place. That what is ought to represent the most pleasant place. There you had gold, luxury, fast mail service, all of that. And this was also close to Incheon, which was the harbor, which was the naval industry. That's where all the trade and merchandise took place that came in from China and other places. So this was the center of Joseon, because the name Korea is based on a French misspelling of Goryeo, and Goryeo was a former Korean dynasty that ruled before Joseon. Okay, that was the center of Joseon. Then you had Pyongyang, Busan, and a few other places throughout the kingdom, and those places were clones of Hanseong. They were built in a similar style as Hanseong, and it functions they had the same function, but then on a regional scale. Those towns, those provincial capitals, and the national royal capital, they formed the center of the country. Now, outside those towns, we had villages where farmers and peasants, where farmers lived, and then you had those those ghost towns or / abandoned towns. Those were towns that nobody wanted to stay in because there was a lot of crime, there was a lot of prostitution, and there was a lot of, bad stuff happening. And those towns were often found at the edges of the country or at remote places. And those places were called the periphery. Those were the places where poverty was, where crime was. Those were the places that nobody wanted to live. Everyone wanted to live as close to the center as possible. Now, let's look at, and today it's the same thing. Well, you have this border over here. North Korea is not a real country that's acknowledged. Even Japan understands this. It works like this. In former ages, Hanseong was the capital. As mentioned before, these were clone towns, basically. And here you had the industry of the naval industry. You have also had the naval industry over here for the trade with Japan. And you had local cults that governed the north. The north was always kind of neglected by the Han Song administration. They did have military bases over here, but this region was often out of sight. And the local elites in Pyongyang were left there to govern this place with permission from those from the administration in Hansong. Well, after the Korean War, um, a similar thing happened. Kim Il-sung was permitted with his scholars to operate in Pyongyang and to administer the northern provinces, while the official government was settled in Seoul. They changed the name to Seoul, and Seoul has to do with the sun god, the pronouncement. That's why there's no Chinese character for this name. And just like in the former times, the South received the most attention from the Hansong, now it's Seoul administration, because that's where the industries and that's where most people live. Well, it's the same today, but this time they've put a military zone over here, and now people think those are two countries. One is good, where America is, the other is bad. That's very naive, bipolar, and this is a very bipolar story based on duality. It's a story used by the media, but it's not real. So the same thing applies today. Also in Japan, now Tokyo, Osaka, and those big metropolitan areas, they are the center. And I would say most people live between Kobe and Tokyo. That's this region over here, like almost 80% of the population. So these regions are a bit more quiet. And also in this center, we have peripheries here and there. Yokohama being one of them. I've been to Yokohama. And when I was there, I noticed that there were people with limbs missing and all of that. And later, I found out that that's where all the gang wars and all the mafia exercised their wars. So anyway, the Lord protected us when we were there. We didn't know any better. Okay, you can go to China. The same thing applies. The same applies to any country. Now, what's the goal of a center versus a periphery? Well, it basically comes down to this. When you have a center where the luxury, the riches are, it's going to draw people. People want to be comfortable. And that out of itself, there's nothing wrong with that. However, worldly people, they operate by duality. If something is pleasant, that means that there must be something unpleasant at the other side. If something is good, that means there must be something not good at the other side. People that aren't born again, and let me say people that still have this worldly mindset, even believers with a worldly mindset, they operate by duality. They always will seek some duality in wherever they are. And because of this dual way of thinking, they're always looking for affirmation. So what's going on? This is what the administration does. The center, that's the capital of the administration, and the local administrative centers, they are given the best care. There's enough food supply. There are enough soldiers to defend the people. They get the water supply, and the sewers are regulated well. So everything must be like heaven on earth over there. At the same time, there are regions within the kingdom, or within the empire, that are neglected on purpose. Why? Because I'm going to give an illustration now. Let's say that, okay, this is Japan. To Japan today. I'm not going to use an historical narrative now. Japan today. Let's say that there are, let me say, cities over here that are neglected. Now, I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just using an illustration here. Let's imagine there are cities here that are neglected. And over here. So you have diverse places where they have purposely neglected cities. That means that people are going to be dissatisfied over there. And let's say that you also have government agents over there that sell drugs. So people are getting addicted over there. So after a while, these places spread out the empire. that receive a bad reputation, people tend to have aversion towards those places. They don't like those places. So if you are born or you come from such a place, you also have a bad reputation immediately. So what happens? Due to the negativity in such places, you need to understand, everything that happens on Earth, everything on Earth has to do with vibration, energy, frequency, and vibration. So if there are so if certain places become hotspots of negativity, what's going to happen? That negative, that let me say that tumor of negative energy over there is going to suck in all the negative energy. I'm not saying all, but it's going to suck in the negative clouds that are hanging around upon the country. So what happens? The place. So let's say you have a hotspot of negative energy right over here. Let's say you have one over here and over here. That means that you have three hotspots that are sucking the negative energy that's generated by the people. So that means that the people around here have a release from the stress of daily life. Why? Because that negative energy that's generated around them is sucked in by those places over here. And the places that are hotspots of negative energy, they are also haunted places. For example, somewhere in Japan, I believe somewhere over here, you have a suicide forest that's also haunted, and many people commit suicide over there. And that's what happened in the kingdoms of this world. Where is it a republic, an emirate, a sultanate, or an empire, or a duchy? It doesn't matter. In the kingdoms of this world, you have the center, and you have the periphery that is neglected on purpose. And though the periphery is the concentration of negative energy, it's like it has, I call it a cancer of negativity. Why? Because you have so many negative. You have houses that are haunted, you have hospitals that are haunted, you have all these haunted places. You have also a lot of evil spirits over there, and it's meant to. It's like, I don't call it a vacuum cleaner, but it sucks in negativity. So people in the center are released. And also a lot of people that are severely emotionally wounded, that are from those environments, tend to become trapped in those environments. So those environments that are the periphery, for every country has those regions as those places. It's done on purpose, and there's a contract within the people of the administration, but also amongst those that are influential in society, that those places should not receive any help. Is to make sure society remains pleasant and well functioning, because what happens when you don't have those hotspots of negative energy, the toxicity of everyone remains with them. Let me say it like this. Let me give another illustration over here. Let's say, okay, this is France. Okay, these are the borders of France. And by the way, as mentioned before, these borders are imaginary lines. They don't exist there. But these are conventions, okay? Here you have Paris, Nantes, Lyon, Montpellier, Marseille, Toulouse, Bordeaux. You have all those French places. Let's say you have periphery towns here and there, here and there, here and there. If you don't have those periphery places, what's going to happen? The people that live here, the negative energy they generate will hover around here. It will keep hovering around. The same over here. The same over here. That's the goal of cities. Cities concentrate people on one place. That means that the negative tensions remain in one place also. And so, but if the negative tension remains on these places, well, those places are becoming haunted sooner or later. And if there's no hotspots around here and there to suck it all in, it's going to affect the weather, it's going to affect the vegetation, and also going to affect the behavior of animals. You see, in ancient times, you had warfare. Let me say, and in warfare, many people, especially the men, would be killed, and that was a way of releasing the negative climate. But since war became But let me say this: war can also exhaust a nation. So the other alternative is to have peripheries all around. Well, look, I've took my time to explain this to you. I'm sorry if no, I'm not going to say I'm sorry. I took my time to explain this. I may have repeated myself often, but that's not a problem because you learn through repetition. And the same with the United States, the same with every country. Where every country, let me say the USA is, as a convention, it is exists out of 50 independent countries, which they call states, that are operating as a union. Every one of these states is like a country. So within these countries over here, you also have peripheries. And here's the thing: the world cannot function without a periphery. They either need to have war all the time, military conflict, and if there's absence of military conflict, they need to have hotspots. Well, now you understand why some are portrayed negative in the media. Now you understand why the government or the state or the province, wherever you live, has a budget for all kinds of stuff, but not for the neighbors that need it. Now you understand why the hood among African Americans in the United States is not it's not fixed. Those places are meant to be there. They're not meant to be restored because that's not the plan. The purpose of ghettos is to be a hotspot, a periphery. Well, a periphery is what keeps the economy going because the people in a nation, when they hear about the periphery, they become frightened, and in their duality, they think, okay, I don't want to belong to the periphery. So what's the opposite of the periphery? The center. Program to work to be accepted by the center. So there is a purpose for it. So that's why, again, I repeat, as a believer, you are in the world, but you're not of the world. And the reason I want you to understand these things is because if you are from a region that's perceived as a periphery, you will encounter much resistance when you're operating in the center for obvious reasons. On the other hand, if you are from what they call the center, you will have a lot of restrictions upon you to not be associated with the periphery. But here's the thing: the Lord wants you to be free from that duality. Well, freedom is not going to be easy, but be free anyway. Well, this is the end of this video entitled Neglected on Purpose. And as I mentioned before, continue in the word, continue in the faith. Shalom.